Yes, you can enter the Polynomial C sequence, or part of it, and some percussion in the Jupiter XM. So in this video, I'm going to go over the SH101 model. We're going to make a Polynomial C patch, and so you'll see where everything's located on the Jupiter XM. The Jupiter XM actually has some features that the original SH101 didn't have. And then I'll show you how to enter the polynomial sequence as well as the drum sequence. So the first thing to do is go to an unused scene. And bank 6 is the first example. As you can see, I've saved polynomial in bank 6 number 1. So I'm going to use bank 6 number 2. So we'll hit part and select the SH101. We're dealing with part 4 and we only want to hear part 4. So we can mute the other parts. 6 through 10 are the mute buttons, and so 9 will correspond with 4. So we hold down Shift and we see that all parts are currently unmuted. So now let's go to the init patch of the SH101, hit right and go down to Tone Initialize, hit enter and enter again, exit, and so now we have the SH101 init tone. So the first section of the SH101 is the tuning section, but the Jupiter XM has really taken that aspect to another level. Hit page right twice and go down a bit and you'll see coarse tune and fine tune. You see that pitch has a line going across, and that means it's a category marker. So to just jump to category markers, you can hit Shift and page down. And we could jump down here to scale. And you see there's various types of scale that you can select, including a nice Arabic scale. But you can also make custom scale. And so you can do micro tuning. And you could make C anything you want it to be. So putting these notes slightly out of tune would give you that micro tune feel that a lot of Aphex Twin has. The next section of the SH101 is the modulator section, which is referring to the LFO. And you can see that the rate is about a 1 and that it's set to the triangle wave. And that can be found on the front panel of the Jupiter XM right here in the LFO section. So let's go ahead and make sure that the type is triangle. And the rate goes all the way to 1023. So we'll turn the rate up to about 100 for now. The next section is the VCO section, and we see that the mod slider is at 0. That indicates the amount of LFO that's going to be applied to the pitch. The Jupiter XM has a little different way of handling that, in that whatever the LFO is applied to is done by these buttons here. So you can either apply it to pitch or filter. The VCO range is set up here in the oscillator section with the pitch encoder, and we'll set that to 8. And next we have the pulse width mod slider, and you can mod it with using the LFO, manual, or envelope. The pulse width mod is always available on this encoder here. It doesn't change with the different functions of the SH101. In this case, we're not using it because we're not using the square wave. The LFO manual and envelope switch of a pulse width modulator slider is found in the menu. If you go all the way to the right, come back one, you're at this tone edit screen. And there you'll find the pulse width mode where you can turn it from LFO to manual to envelope. Next we have the source mixer, which you get on the front panel by hitting function, and you see 1 through 4 lighting up. And that means that you have to select the individual tones, and then you can turn them up here in the oscillator section using level. So when we hit 1 and turn level, we see that it says PW level. So that's the pulse width level. And for this patch, we'll turn that to 0. Next oscillator is the saw, and we want that all the way up. And the next oscillator is the sub oscillator. We'll turn that almost all the way up. And next would be the noise. We're not using any of that. So typically the setting for your sub oscillator will be 1 octave down. If you want to change the octave of the sub oscillators, you'll find that in the tone edit screen. Next we get to the VCF section, and the frequency is all the way down. Resonance to half. The envelope mod is all the way up, and LFO mod is about halfway, and the keyboard tracking is all the way up. And we can find those settings on the front of the Jupiter XM. Here in the filter section, we can turn the filter all the way down. We can turn the resonance to halfway. The filter envelope mod slider is located right here with the envelope section, and you can set the filter envelope depth, and so we'll turn that all the way up. The LFO mod slider is found with the LFO section, and so if the filter button is selected here, then we can go to the depth, and we can turn that up about halfway. And then key follow is right here, and it should be all the way up. Next we get to the VCA section, and it has the choice of envelope or gate. And so that is located in the menus. Where it says amp envelope select, you can choose gate, and it looks like by default it was on gate, but we want that on envelope. And then we come to the envelope section, and the envelope has a choice of gate plus trig, gate, or LFO. That choice is found in the menu under the envelope mode. Looks like by default it's on gate plus trig, which most of the time I would say that's what I use anyway. And the envelope is right here on the front panel. We'll set that at 0, about 6, and just a tiny bit of sustain, and about a 4 on the release. I gave it a little more filter modulation, maybe about 74. A little less envelope depth, about maybe 800. Now this patch doesn't have any portamento, but the Portamento OnOff is located on the front panel, right here on button 14. And if you hold shift and hit the button, it takes you right to the menu where you can choose the portamento time that you want. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that patch, so we hit right, hit enter, and we come to the user patch section. You could select which user patch you want to save this into, And I've already saved mine as user 1. Okay, on to sequencing. You page left. You get to the art part edit. And my grids are 16th. Grid length will be 64. We'll hit step edit, exit, and we're presented with this grid. Now the way it works is kind of like a piano roll. You know, with the Ableton piano roll, you see all your notes on the left, and then you enter your notes on the grid, which is a timeline. This is a little different in that you have to choose the specific notes that you want to use over on the left. And so you don't have all the notes. So the first note it says is E flat 4. Hit enter. Then it goes to the next line. Hit enter. That's C5, hit enter. And then hit G. And hit enter. So those are the 4 notes that we're dealing with. And then you just place them on the grid where you want them activated. If you had pre-planned which spots on the grid the notes you want would fall, it would be pretty easy just to use these 16 buttons here, and you select which ones the notes fall on. But if you want to play it by ear, you can enter the first one in. So you get into that first square and I just turn the velocity all the way up. So you use these two to negotiate, where you use this left encoder number 1 here as your left right, and then use page as your up down. We'll put a note there. We go over 1, up 1, put a note there. Go over 1, down 1, put a note there. And we could listen to what we have so far. And so we can hear that we need this note. And then a tie, because it's actually goes for 2 steps. So we go over 1, and then counterclockwise, it gives us a little equal sign in there, and that's the tie. And we want that to repeat again. So go back up, over, put 1 in there. And we go to page 2, and we put the same thing, but this time we can kind of see what we have on page 1. 7 and 9, we got a hit on those. Go back and look. So completed page 3 should look like this, and then page 4 is just the same, should look like that. And let's turn the tempo up to 145 and hear what we got then. And so you should continue saving this along. If you see any changes that you've made to the part, save that first. And then if you see that the scene has been edited, save that as well. Moving to the rhythm track. On part 5, I used the drum and bass kit, CDO33, it looks like. So if we hold shift, we can see it should be 10 that we're listening to. And so to make it just one page, you page left, and you get to the art part edit. And my grids are 16th. In grid length 16 for the drum beat. Hitting step edit. So go down an octave with that kit. I used C2, that's what they're calling C2, as my kick, D2 as my snare, and then a little tambourine sound, and you can see what I've entered for each one. And we hit S3 to listen to that. Now let's talk about how to get the reverb. If you go to 2 screens to the right, you see Scene Part Edit. And so that will be your individual part level, the panning, and the Reverb Send. So that's where you can turn the Reverb Send up. Now if you're in part and you have the part selected that you want to edit, you can just use these knobs and it will only apply to that part that's currently selected. So in this case, I've got the SH101 selected, and if I hit Shift, I can see that I've got it unmuted. So let me start the sequence. And as I turn the reverb up, you'll see that the Reverb Send there on the screen is going up. So here, the scene effect reverb, I've changed the reverb type to Integra 7 reverb and put the level at 127 and put it on Hall 2 and turn the time to 4 seconds. And then as far as assigning these 2 sliders here to the volumes, if you go right from the main screen, if you go right one, you'll go down and you'll see the heading Assign. And so SL1 is slider 1. Make that level P5, and that'll be part 5, the drum. Okay, so I've made SL2 level P3 because on my third part, I just put some strings to go along with it that I was playing, and then I gradually turned that level up. And so that's basically how I did it. If you have any questions, put them below. Try to help you out. Hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you in the next video.